What I'm doing with this channel, I'm setting the scene. I'm laying the groundwork for eventually not just sharing knowledge of things that I've learnt upon the spiritual path, but new knowledge that I've received, which I feel compelled to share with the world when the time is right, of course.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Lifting the Lamp. I'm Frata Eleftheria, and well, I've been doing this channel for a long time now. A lot of things have happened since then. I've changed a lot as a person. My beard has grown longer and gotten whiter, and just a lot of things have changed. And there's been a lot of videos that I have made in that time, but this video is the most important video I've made to date. Over the next few days and weeks, the decisions that I make, the things that I do, are going to determine the course of the rest of my life. I'm at a huge turning point in my spiritual path. I've been preparing for this for 23 years, and I've been preparing for it for several years, specifically on my YouTube channel. And I always knew that this day would come. And it's something that I've been foreshadowing for several years. And when I had just been doing Lifting the Lamp for 1 year, I did a video. And in that video, I talked about some of the things that I wanted to do in the future. And I talked about how the channel up until then and going forward was meant to be a repository of all of the spiritual knowledge that I'd learnt over the years in various esoteric orders, and doing my own research and going through my own experiences. But more than that, it was supposed to be about new knowledge that I had received. And going forward, that was something I wanted to introduce more and more. And the specific kind of new knowledge that I was referring to is knowledge that comes as a direct result of some of the magical workings that I've engaged in over the years. The two most important of which I did foreshadow in that video. And really what I was talking about is two forms of Western ceremonial magic that I had engaged in the past. Two very ambitious magical workings that I'd engaged in. One, which is a working to attain what's called knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel, or our higher genius, or our higher divine self. And then another one, which comes from Enochian magic, a 49-day ritual that I engaged in known as the Gebofal Ritual. And the purpose of both of those workings, both of those magical operations, is to use magic to get in contact with angels and then receive messages from them, communications from them. This sometimes gets described as channeling, it sometimes gets described as revelation. It can be described in terms of divine inspiration. And in more modern times, it's also been described as receiving a download. And so this is what would happen to me in these rituals which I performed. And I did perform them. And I wanted to share more about those on my channel, and eventually the knowledge that I did receive in the downloads during those rituals. So I've covered the working to attain knowledge and conversation that I engaged in on this channel. I've covered the Gebofal Ritual on this channel. And if you want more information on that, then you can go find those videos by searching on the channel. But by way of recap, the working to attain knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel, I've already described. It's a ritual in which you call forth to your higher divine self, and then it talks back to you. And there's rituals that you can perform that take between 6 and 18 months where you develop a relationship with this angel and it gives you messages. And this is the key to discovering the divinity within in many Western esoteric orders. And then as for the Gebofal ritual, this is a big 49-day ritual where on each of the 49 days you read one of 49 calls. And as you read these calls, you enter a new realm of the heavens and communicate with different angelic beings, and they give you messages. And the purpose of this Gebofal ritual, which was first given to John Dee and Edward Kelly in their own Enochian angelic communications, was, in the angel's words, to restore the holy books. The communications that could be received through the Gebofal ritual were nothing less than spiritual communications which could restore human spirituality and provide new holy teachings at a time when renewal was much needed among the human race. So very ambitious and very much associated with the coming of the end times, according to these angels that communicated with Dee and Kelly. Now, although Dee and Kelly received the Gebofal ritual, they never performed it. And in fact, it was never performed until I performed it in 2014-15. And it couldn't be performed because the 49th call was missing. I received the 49th call, and then I completed calls 1 to 49, and I was the first person to complete that ritual. And I did receive communications as a result of that ritual, as I did with the working to attain knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. And the information that I was able to get from the Gebofal ritual, it really was what it claimed to be. It gave me the mysteries of God. It gave me the mysteries of the universe. It taught me about humanity's place in the universe and the spiritual significance of that. And it taught me about how human spirituality changes at different points in different cycles, beginnings and endings. And then the working to attain knowledge and conversation, the communications I received were much more about the subjective experience of what it's like to contact the divine within and how we can establish that contact and use that to understand the divine. So I had these two different types of received information, and then there were certain things that I wanted more information on to expand on the information that I had. So I did a number of other angelic workings to get more detail on that. And so I had this incredible body of received wisdom, but I was instructed not to reveal it to anybody until the appointed time. And I had to go through a process of communicating with the angels to determine when that appointed time was. And I've recently gone and looked over some of my old magical journals to see exactly what they said to me. So this is one of the main journals that I use for all of my automatic writing sessions, various types of operations, talking to various angels over the years. And what I want to draw your attention to is this very last page here. This is an entry marked the 27th of the 3rd, 2021, scrying with the very good angels. I encountered an angel, Glazidi, and I asked Glazidi what I'm supposed to do with these communications now that I have them. And Glazidi says, spend the next 3 years preparing, start a spiritual channel, and do the work of an exempt adept. There is no other way. So that was earlier in 2021. It was March 2021, the end of March 2021. And I was already thinking about doing a YouTube channel at that time, but this was really the thing that cemented my view that I have to start a channel. I was to start a YouTube channel, and that was to be the chosen vehicle for me eventually being able to promote these angelic communications that I had received from the Gebofal ritual, from the Holy Guardian Angel, and so on. So I got told to spend 3 years preparing, and that gave me the impression that I had until the end of March 2024 before I needed to publish the communications. And towards the end of 2022, actually New Year's Eve 2022, I started to get concerned that maybe I wouldn't be prepared in time to publish the communications. So I called upon the good angels again. And this is a journal entry from that period. You can see again, very detailed journals that I kept. On the 31st of the 12th, 2022, the angels said I can have 2 years max beyond, that's 2 years beyond the end of March 2024. But no longer than that, because something will happen in the world which I will have to respond to. And they also said I should have 35,000 subscribers on YouTube by then. That is a fine amount for the purposes that I would have to use it for. So that is just amazing. I recently got 35,000 subscribers actually, yesterday. And what else is interesting is that this is the end of the 2 years. This is the end of March 2026. By the time I post this, it will be around the March equinox, another auspicious time. So, in other words, now is the time. And I just happen to have been preparing the book. I've got a final proof that I've been proofreading one more time, and I've read it start to finish. There's a few extra changes that I need, but otherwise it's ready. All I need to do is press a button and it's all systems go. And, there was a bit of a process of writing some commentary for that took a while as well, but that's finished now. But of course, preparing the book and reaching critical mass with my YouTube channel was only part of the story. I also needed to prepare myself to make myself worthy to share this information. And we're approaching the end of that process as well. I've got one final spiritual test that I need to pass before I am truly in a position for being worthy to reveal this information to the world and being able to have that responsibility put on my shoulders. I'm fairly confident that I'll pass that test, and it'll happen in less than 2 weeks around Easter. So right at the finish line now. It's a matter of weeks, in fact days, before everything is in place for me to release that book that I've been talking about for so long. And it's going to be called the Voces Caelesti, which is a Latin phrase meaning roughly the Book of Heavenly Voices, which will be the subtitle of the book. I will let you know when that book is released, when the release date is. But those are some of the preliminary details. I have been wondering for many years what the events that I would have to respond to that happen in the world might be. And I'm not sure that I'm really asking that question anymore, because now is the time, and there actually is a lot happening in the world already. We've got war in the Middle East, which is quite possibly the war of Gog and Magog, and seems to tick all of the boxes for being that war. The final war before the coming of the Messianic era, before the beginning of the ushering in of the end times happens. And linked to that, we've got Netanyahu. That brings into play another prophecy by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who not only predicted that Netanyahu would one day become the Prime Minister of Israel, but that he would be the last Prime Minister before the arrival of the Messiah. And it's not a person, it's not an individual that we're looking for. It's something much more profound than that, which the Voces Caelesti explains, and which I will explain in the weeks to come. Then this time right now is very interesting time. There's a lot of things happening in the spiritual world at this time that we should be very enthusiastic about and very optimistic about. But we're living in this very auspicious time, and of course, one of the potential dates for the fulfillment of the Chris Bledsoe 2026 prophecy was March 20, around now. So we're living in very prophetic times, which I couldn't have foreseen when the angels gave me this message. Just like I couldn't have foreseen that I would reach 35,000 subscribers as all this was happening. And so there's just some incredible divine timing that's unfolding that has convinced me that this is the right path, and this is the time for the publishing of the Book of Heavenly Voices. And so, after years of waiting, years of preparing, it gives me great pleasure to say that my campaign to promote and launch the Book of Heavenly Voices begins now. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to invite all of you to join my newly created email list. And when I have updates to do with the book, if I decide to do pre-orders or anything like that, the mailing list is going to be the way that I connect with people and coordinate all of this. And I've been meaning to do a mailing list for a long time anyway, because I'm sick of YouTube, I'm sick of the censorship, I'm sick of my videos not being promoted because the topics that I talk about are not pleasing to the evil powers in control of this world. I need to be in control of my own destiny as far as having a platform and being able to say what I need to say. And the mailing list is the first step in that direction. So for no other reason than that, please join my mailing list. I will put details of that in the description below so you can sign up. This is the beginning of a very exciting new chapter. There's just so much to look forward to. When people read the book, I look forward to their reactions. I really do. It's not a book I ever could have written. It comes from somewhere else. But you have to see for yourself. And I'll be giving little snippets of the kinds of things that the book covers in the subsequent weeks to build up a bit of hype around this beautiful event when so many horrible things are happening in our world and everything seems spiraling out of control. To bring something truly positive into existence is going to be very rewarding. And maybe it is precisely because everything is so out of control and everything is so dark right now that now is the time that the book is needed. Because, you know, we need something ambitious that gives humanity a chance to preserve civilization in the coming period that we move through. And so this book is something that the world needs right now. And it's just a wonderful, really and truly, there is so much to look forward to. I can't really put it into words. Just the knowledge alone that will become known to the world in the coming weeks, it'll change everything for the better this time. And it's such a privilege to finally be standing here, to be able to say that it's happening, that it's coming. And I wasn't sure that I would be standing here when I went through the ordeal of the crossing of the abyss last year. And another thing that I needed to do in preparation for the time now. I went through a really dark time and I wasn't sure if I would make it to the end of 2025. And in that moment of desperation, I prayed to God and I surrendered to God and I said, God, I can't see how I can make it to the end of this year. But if somehow I do, then I surrender myself to you completely, to use however you will in your plans for the human race. And, well, it's 2026 now, so I belong to God. I'm here to do what God wants me to do, and I finally understand what that is, completely. I had some uncertainty over the past few months, but now I know. I know. And I'm ready. I'm ready to reveal the Book of Heavenly Voices. So welcome aboard, and I'm really looking forward to beginning this next stage of the journey with you. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel to support my work, hit join or thanks to support me further, and of course, sign up to the mailing list. Another announcement that I would like to make is that I recently appeared in the TLB podcast, being interviewed there. So if you want to check that interview out, it was great and there was a lot of interesting topics that were covered. I'll leave a link in the description below. But thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next time.